Welcome to the podcast, Justin. So thrilled to have you on here today. Can't wait to hear all of the things that you have learned in your journey of entrepreneurship, launching your company. And I know it's probably not the first company. So thanks for coming on and being willing to open up kind of the keys to the kingdom, open the door and let us see behind the scenes of your business.
I will try. Thank you for having me on. This will be great.
Of course. All right. So tell us a little bit about the business you have right now and let's kind of work backwards from there.
Sure. So, currently founder and CEO of Collars and Co. We are Shark Tank, Mark Cuban backed business. We started out with just what the original idea was actually a side hustle. We'll kind of go back into our loop back around, but I always have been kind of up with ideas. And this was one during COVID. I actually had a software company. I still have it called Member Text. But every year I'll just come up with a new idea. And my wife thinks I'm crazy. This is, what are we wasting our money on again? But I find it fun. It's kind of like a hobby to come up with stuff. And I had this idea of a polo shirt with like a really firm collar. I wore always the look kind of what I'm wearing today, where it's a sweater or a quarter zip, and you put a dress shirt underneath it. And I like the look. It was like elevated. It's kind of the Midtown uniform. Everybody in kind of finance in New York wears it. But it's annoying to like pull a long sleeve shirt down under the sweaters, right? It like gets stuck through your elbows. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel as good as like a t-shirt or a polo shirt does. But you got to have that look. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make one. I'm going to make a polo shirt and put a firm collar on it. It took me about 6 months or so to find a factory. I knew nothing, not in the fashion industry, nothing to do about clothing, merchandising, nothing. I mean, I always felt like I had some level of style, maybe above average, but, nothing. I didn't know anything about the business. But that's what I find fun too, is like learning. And I think that's such a big key of being a good entrepreneur. And where I see some people fail is not having this eagerness to learn about stuff that is probably difficult, hard, or something they don't even understand how to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I love learning about how things work. And so basically I kind of set off to try and find a factory and basically Googling, polo shirt factories and speaking to them and understanding the lingo. And they sent me a sample. It took about 6 months to get like a good prototype. I made a prototype, learned everything I could about Shopify. Never created really a Shopify website before. Took photos, like my daughter literally took the photos of me on a white background in my house. And I learned how to like remove the background to make it look kind of like Amazon-y at the time. And then I got the shipment of about 300 white polo shirts. So they're polo shirts. So they have you can see here, it's like a very firm collar on it and looks like kind of like I'm wearing a dress shirt. And the story goes, my 7-year-old daughter's like, Dad, you got to do a TikTok video. I'm like, what? Yeah. She's like, yeah, you got a TikTok video. Everyone's doing these things. I'm like, well, I'm not dancing, but she's like, no, just talk about the shirt. So anyway, in my closet, she told me up the phone. And I was like, guys, don't you wearing dress shirts? They suck. They're hot. They're scratchy. The collars flop down. You got to check out one of these dress collar polos. It's a stretchy, comfortable shirt with a firm collar. And just didn't know what was going to happen. I put it out there and, next thing you know, we were watching Netflix that night. And when you're on Shopify, you get a sale. It goes like ka-ching.
Yeah.
It makes a noise. It was unexpected. And all of a sudden, like the phone started buzzing at night. And I was like, oh my God, like people are buying this thing. Like I didn't do any like testing or market research. I was like, I have this idea. I'm just going to see what happens. And that first month we did 40,000 in sales.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was crazy. So I knew it had something, obviously, from that first TikTok video. Then I did another and started, really doing online social and then getting Instagram. But that was the start of it. And from there, it really turned into a full menswear brand. Now polos make up a good percentage of the business, but we have other different lines. So really a full brand, everything from blazers. We've got a really cool new travel blazer. You can roll it up in a ball and take it out, put it in your briefcase. It's so slick. We do sweaters, knitwear, give people the whole look, pants, shoes, outerwear. So it's been a wild ride, really fun, learn every day, learn something new.
Amazing.
So that's what I'm doing now. It was a long answer to that.
Yeah. I love
Kind
it.
of fun.
Such an interesting story. And I think I don't want to say it's not typical, but I think sometimes it's not, where there's a lot of people who have an idea like that and they have zero entrepreneurship background. And so they almost have the learning curve of having to figure out where do I even start? you had some business background, you had that entrepreneurship brain, and I think sometimes when you have that, it can almost inhibit because you think through things too much. Like, you already know it's gonna entail so much work and whatever. So, when you were in that moment of you didn't do a lot of market research, like, what kind of drove you to keep doing like, reaching out to manufacturers and even doing this when there wasn't a competing product? It wasn't like, "Oh, that's a cool idea. I'm sure it already exists. Somebody's already doing it." Like, what kind of kept moving the bus forward when you really didn't have a whole lot of
Good
research?
question. Honestly, I think that's another trait of most entrepreneurs. I get obsessed with it.
Mhm.
So I was obsessed with seeing this through. I wanted to, people come to me with ideas all the time, like just get a product done so you can see if it sells. That's all. If
Mhm.
it didn't sell, I'd be on to the next one.
Yeah.
Like stop dilly dallying. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just see if the thing sells. If you know you have a product and it can sell, you're going to make it better. You're going to get better pricing on it. You're going to get economies of scale. Um, but I was obsessed with seeing, can this concept work? Do other people have this
Mhm.
problem? And I'm still obsessed with the business. I think about it
Yeah.
all the time. When I come home, it's good and bad, right? But yeah, I think you have to have that kind of crazy obsession about it, always thinking what's the next angle and what's the next video we can do and how can we reach professional guys in this way or in different kind of neat ways. But yeah, I've always just kind of been interested in entrepreneurship and coming up with ideas and coming up with products that other people would want or inventing things. It started as a young age, really, just always had that interest in
Mm,
coming up with stuff.
that's so cool. So, from the idea that you had the idea from the moment you had the idea, we'll say it that way, did you do much research to see if anything like this did exist in the marketplace?
I mean, yeah, I did some research, but I didn't see it. That's just why
Mm,
I kind of started it. It's like, it's
yeah.
kind of a cool little invention and we'll see. And nothing was else like it out there. So yeah, I did
Which
not much market research.
Yeah, but that can also sometimes, like, really scare people away and saying, "I don't even know if this is a marketable product, if maybe I'm the only one who needs this." So what was the risk like? Because I think sometimes we get afraid to take that risk,
Yeah.
especially when it doesn't feel super calculated. So as you're reaching out to manufacturers, are we talking, like, thousands of dollars in investing to try out something like this? Or are we talking it wasn't really that intense and it was something you were able to do on the side and not a whole lot of emotional fear?
Yeah. I think there is some risk there. You'd have to definitely put some money behind it. It probably costs maybe 3 or 4 grand to
Mhm.
start it, which is a lot. Somebody, factory's like, okay, I'll make you a sample, but I want $150 in shipping. Well, that probably weeds out 98% of people that would even try this thing. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm not paying $150 for shipping for a sample, but that's kind of what it takes. You definitely have to risk some resources, whether that's money or time, into doing something. And then back to your other point about asking people, um, my wife's trying to start like a between dress brand, just as like to see what happens. She's seeing how easy it looks. So right. But what's interesting, I was like, all right, just make the dresses. Let's get them into stores. I don't care if you have to get them in on consignment. Right? She's like, what do you mean consignment? This is not about making money, right? I just want to see if the dresses are going to sell.
Mm,
And then she's like, oh, I'm going to tell my friends. I'm like, I don't want your friends going to the store and buying the dress you made. I want to see if normal people walk into the store, pick up your dress and buy it. Right?
yeah,
I wanna know
yeah.
if your thing sells. Give it to the
Mm,
stores on consignment. I don't care if you have to lose money. That's what it's about. Does your product sell? If it sells, we'll scale it. We'll make money. We'll figure, we'll be able to buy it for less. We'll be able to get economies of scale in the shipping factory. And when you're ordering 1,000 versus you're ordering 20, there's a big difference.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's kind of that piece.
That's an important piece, and I think a lot of people wanna skip right to the huge commitment, and they wanna build this whole company before they've even had the product viability, and so
Yeah.
talk us through that too, because if you hadn't had was the TikTok video the thing that kinda led to most of the sales, and if you hadn't done that, did you have a strategy for how you were going to sell once you had these ready?
I mean, I figured I would do some online advertising.
Mhm,
Having the organic TikTok, back then TikTok, you're talking almost 4 years ago, was a little bit more of a discovery app. It was really
mhm,
about if you had good content or something really cool and new, people, they would show it a lot more. Now it's a little bit more difficult, a lot more
yeah,
competition for views. Um, So that was like a signal that, hey, probably paid ads are going to work.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't have too much of an idea of how I was going to sell it. But I knew what there's LinkedIn and posting, and I feel like I could get rid of 300. And if not, okay,
Yeah.
that kind of told me something too.
Yeah. So
I think
even
people
just
get
that.
caught up into that too, right? If they can't
Yeah.
sell, if your thing doesn't sell, and you've been working on it for whatever it is, 90 days or something, it's okay. You're going to come up with another idea.
Mhm.
Um, right. So
Yeah.
yeah, you don't, it's like this conundrum. Do you give up or not give up? But at some point, you have to get a feeling of, hey, we got a little bit of traction here. Um, are random people that you don't know buying it or saying it's a good idea? I
Mm.
think is important.
Yeah, I think you brought up an important point. You can always get your friends and family to buy something, and that's not the way to test the market, right? Like
You
you have
know,
to take it outside. I love the illusion too of put it in even a consignment store. We just want to see people's behaviors. We want to see if they're drawn to it. We want to see if it stands out among some other things. If there's really a market at all for this, if people want it. And I think that is sometimes a phase that people don't want to go through because it's scary to have the no, to have the
yes,
rejection and
totally.
feeling like, "Oh, but my whole life is wrapped up in this," because you are obsessed, right? You were obsessed. You thought it
Yeah.
was an amazing idea. So what would you have done? I mean, it's hard to say, you don't have a crystal ball, but if it hadn't taken off that quickly, do you feel like it's kind of a gut thing, right? Do you feel like you just had the conviction of, "I know this is something people need, and I will just continue to wear it and share it because I love it myself." And you feel like there's times you just know you need to see it through and you need to tweak the marketing versus throw the whole product away?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's a very tough call to
Yeah.
see when you wanna keep going on an idea, but I think you have to feel like there's some traction,
Mhm.
right? I mean, maybe it was people weren't gonna buy the product, but they liked it a lot or it got a lot of views on TikTok. Okay, well, that's a signal. Maybe you have something here. The other thing is, look, if I was a direct to consumer business and I advertised, and I spent 2 or 3 grand on advertising and no one bought, okay, probably time to move on to the next
Mhm.
idea. Maybe at that point I would have tried to get it into store like we're talking about and maybe just give it to them on consignment. Say, please just put this on the rack, see if it sells.
Mhm.
But if like those things didn't work, I'd probably be on to the next
Yeah.
idea.
I think the concept of selling on consignment might be a little bit of a new one. I know I've never interviewed anybody who shared that as a strategic approach to selling a product. Can you tell us what that would look like? I mean, are we talking big stores? Are there requirements? What would it look like to just test the market if you do have a product that ideally sells, in a storefront?
Yeah, well, I think people don't use that enough, the power of free to see if
Mhm.
your product is going to sell. They're like, oh, but I have to sell it for $10 a month. Like, who cares? Just give it to 100 people for free. Let them try it. Let them tell you if it's really worth it. And in 30 days or 90 days, you'll call them up and say, hey, how was your free trial? It's now going to be whatever dollars a month or whatever your product
Mhm.
is. Would they buy it? That's all that matters. But the way consignment works, let's take my wife's dress business. It's called Gold Rush NYC. If anybody wants to check it out on Instagram, you can kind of see what we're talking about. Um, she made these dresses. So she went to a store. It's like a local tween store. It's got like fashiony kid stuff. And basically, you go to them and you say, look, will you take my dresses on consignment? So, meaning normally a store would have to go out and invest in product to buy it for their store. So, they'd have to go out and spend $1,000. They'd get $1,000 worth of product, put it on their shelf, and now they're out $1,000 cash.
Mm.
And they need to move this merchandise. So, they really had to take a risk. They had to know pretty well that that was going to sell in store.
Mm.
When you go to on consignment, you basically say, hey, look, take my stuff for free. When it sells, I'll pay you. So you can give the store 10 dresses. They're each worth, let's say, $100. Great. You'll go back in 2 weeks. Hey, how many did you sell? We sold 3. Amazing. They'll pay me $300. That's
Mm.
it. And then they have $700 worth of stuff. So it's like low risk. There's nothing. Why wouldn't a store take it? As long as it's as long as it's cool and it fits their brand,
Yeah.
it's great. I'd love to take things on consignment and be able to sell it, because I don't have to outlay any money. It's pure profit.
Mhm.
Um, there's no risk. I mean, yes, there's space risk potentially where they could say to you, "Hey, we only have a limited number of racks," but for the most part, you could probably get any store out there to take whatever you've got on consignment.
Amazing. And you said something important, I think, that might feel like so wrong, especially given the context of the podcast. Like, we're trying to become millionaires. We want to build businesses that are really sustainable and successful. And I think that when you mentioned, like, we're not doing this to make money right now, that's also a stage of business development that people are so afraid of, that feels like it's a backwards thing. Talk us through that a little bit, because I understand what you were saying, where you have to kind of, and you even mentioned this too, like be willing to just give it to some people for free when you're getting started. What do you think
Yeah.
the benefit of that is? Like the lesson learned, the market research, I think we need to realize there's quantifiable value in that versus just the initial cash that hits our pocket.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we'd have to come up with a hypothetical product for pretty much anything. Uh, Let people try it. You want to get real data. Is it working? What's good about it? What's bad about it? Get testimonials right away so you can have on your website. Hey, over 100 people have tried this. Get videos of every single person that tried your product. Let them talk about it. Well, now you have 100 people on your website, with like little links to little videos, kind
Mhm.
of little snippets. If I saw 100 views on there, I'd be like, oh my God, they must have sold 400,000 of these things. So there's that social proof concept. But it's really seeing, is your product good enough? Is it going to sell? And if you can't get it to sell, give it away for free and see if they'll buy it in 30 days or in 60 days
Mhm.
after they use it. So I think there's a real value in free
Yeah. Well,
to
and
start.
there's
To
value
start.
in, right, to start. Definitely not not forever. But even
Mhm.
influencer marketing, like I think sometimes it can feel like a scary investment to just give something away, but the return on investment at times when you're just willing to see, let's try this out. And I think that's really scary, especially in maybe launching your first business where there's a lot more risk involved, where you really need this to happen. And it just goes to show that you can't have the emotional, like you have to be emotionally invested. It's such a weird little like between stage to explain. You have to love it enough and be excited about it. And then you have to just detach from the outcome. And you have to say, what would like the successful version of myself do? I remember doing this when I ran ads a long time ago. I was selling a digital course. And I was like, if I was already making $10,000 a month from this, how much would I be spending on ads right now? And I decided to just do it instead of waiting
Right.
until it got to that point. And
Yeah.
it sold within like an hour, the very first one. And I was thinking, what would this have taken if I'd done like
Right.
10% of that and scaled up? So, not saying be irresponsible, but I think if you can, like I said, detach from the outcome and just make business decisions, treat it like an actual business and not this thing that's going to make or break your whole entire livelihood, then you can learn quicker. You can gain the information you need to take that to market even bigger and better and faster.
Exactly. You mentioned something I think is such a roadblock for a lot of people is being okay with failure or getting a no.
Mhm.
They're really wrapped up in feeling like they told their friends about this idea and their parents and whoever their spouses, and that if it doesn't work, it's like a real blow to them. Whereas I think it's really important to try, and it's just one idea in an arsenal of ideas you're going to have in your life, and not all of them are going to work. Even the
Mhm.
smartest investors in the world don't all make great bets. The best venture capitalists in the world only have 10% actually win.
Wow.
So you feel like you have nothing to lose. It's just you're on this planet one time. Like I
Mhm.
would it's such a bummer for you to have like this great idea and love this concept, be obsessed with it and not give it a try. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying try it, at least see if it sells. If it sells, amazing. If it doesn't, we're on to the next one. It's not like a you're taking it personally, but at the end of the day, uh, you try to say like it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm willing to face anybody. If someone says like, "Oh, you started that business and it failed," you're like, "Yeah, well, how many things have you started? None."
Mhm.
You know,
Right. Who
you're
failed
still
here
working for
actually?
somebody that started it.
Yeah.
You're still working for somebody that started something else. Like it's rare that every idea is going to be great, um, but it's like you only live once here, right?
Mhm.
If you're passionate about it, give it a go, and if it works, amazing. If it doesn't, that's great too. So much you can learn if it doesn't go well too. There's so
Yeah.
much you're going to take. I've had so many businesses from before I started this, that I've learned something about it all along the way. So it's always a win. Trying to start something and whatever it is. Maybe I learned about Shopify and I didn't work out this time, but 5 years from now, I'll have something else and I'll be like, oh, I remember when I started the Shopify website and I learned how to do this and this or Facebook
Mm.
ads or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, don't be afraid. And most people are naysayers out there. I mean, so I take whatever they say, whether it's good or bad. Friends with a grain of salt. It's like my wife comes home from a store and she's like, "Oh, well, the sales associate thought it looked great." I'm like, "Of course." That's their job. We do the same thing at our stores, like,
Mhm.
so, you know, you have
Yeah.
nothing, there's not much to lose out there. Yeah, I guess some businesses have huge upfronts, huge upfront investments. I guess that's probably a little bit different. You want to be real sure about this, but most small businesses you can test out for a little bit of money.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of goes along too with our methodology here within Millionaire University. We want you to graduate rich, not broke. And it's so funny if you really zoom out and think about it. We're spending a lot of money on school, and it's not a guarantee that it's going to lead to a certain outcome, right? We know that if we're willing to invest maybe that same amount of money, I love it's, you said around $3,000 to $5,000. It feels maybe at first, and it's just a mindset shift, like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna like take this $3,000 to $5,000 risk. That's a semester, in a like a community college. But if you
Yeah,
think about it that way, what you learned, and I love that you brought that up, you're gonna gain experience with Shopify, you're gonna gain experience with these other platforms, ads, whatever it may be. Like that's you paying to get your education in a totally different way, in a way that's also gonna serve and build upon each other and compound, so when you launch the next thing, when you try again, it's inevitably gonna be a little bit better because of what you learned, and it's real life application instead of just theoretical principles and knowledge. So, I kinda love that those what you said really intersects with the whole point of what we're trying to do, and I think it's just you have to shift the way you're thinking about the money being a tool and being something you're investing into growth versus just something it's costing you, right? Like,
right.
that makes a big difference.
Yep. One other point you're reminding me is usually not all the time, but let's just go back to the sample idea when I was trying to get samples from these factories. And let's say one factory is like, yeah, we can send you a sample for $20. And the other one's a sample for 200. Usually the one for 200 is going to be a better sample,
Mhm.
right? I mean, to always try and you're going for like the cheapest possible way. And, oh, it's like you pay peanuts, you're going to get monkeys,
Mm,
right? So be careful there. It's not always about the cheapest, right? You're paying for value. Hopefully, a designer, you need a graphic designer. Okay, I mean, now graphic designers you can get very inexpensively, but let's say 15 years ago, sure, you could get somebody from that's not graduated from the community college, or spend another $100 or a couple $100 and get like a real good designer. You're just going to get a better product out of it. So I know as early entrepreneurs, they you want to be careful of where you're spending, but there is a definite correlation between what you're spending and the output and the quality of the output, usually. But hopefully you can
yeah,
try and find some value. But yeah.
yep. That's good advice. So, I kind of wanna almost give, like, this. I know it's not linear and there's so many different things that we can't account for as you're launching a product-based business. So, let's say somebody does have a cool idea. They've been sitting
Mm,
on it, they're listening to you, they've already heard, "Okay, so I need to reach out, I need to find some manufacturers who can really produce this product." I know that there's so many different resources and outlets. What would you recommend in terms of where do we look first to find a good supplier? How do we find within our niche of the thing that we're selling? Like, talk me like I'm a first grader and I'm beginning a product business, and let's just walk through some of these steps.
great. First thing, it'd be good going to Google, trying to find your factory. Are they domestic? Are they international? Is it something you can find here? Is it something you can private label to test out also, right? Maybe someone else is already making it and you can say, hey, can you throw my label on it? And I have like a new twist on it, or I have a new color or something. But, you basically, I mean, Google, everybody's online, even all the factories overseas. They're all online. They're all on Google. You can look on Alibaba. There's other big manufacturing sites. I used to also look at articles that may have been written in trade where they would talk about, let's call it manufacturing of tumblers. I don't know. You type in like tumbler manufacturing report or 2025, you could see maybe there's articles written and they would quote a factory. And then you could look that factory up and say, oh, I saw you were quoted about tumbler factory, making, I need one. So that's where I would start. You'd find the factory, and you have to decide whether you're going to do wholesale or retail on your products. If it's wholesale, well, we can actually use my wife's business because this is exactly, she's just starting, right? She's got these dress concepts. She's like, oh, I really want to go to D2C right now. I'm like, I don't think that's a great idea, or just to start. Like, let's see if the thing sells first before you spend money on a website, spend money on a graphic designer, spend money to get all the pixels and things embedded on your website. Now, most people or some people could do it on their own, which is great. And that's awesome. If you have the time, go on YouTube. You can learn everything that I just said to do it yourself. But if you don't, that means you're going to have to spend money and have a developer do it for you. Um, Whereas, I can help you spin up a quick Shopify site. That's nothing. Uh, so I was like, let's just see if the product can sell in store. So basically, I said, you just offer it on consignment. So she started doing that and got a few stores to take it on, which is pretty cool. Then she started posting on Instagram pretty easy and inexpensively. She got pictures taken. She'll put my daughter in the pictures. She posts on Instagram. And lo and behold, the stores that that took it on consignment started tagging her. And guess what? The other stores started seeing that and they called her and said, I love that dress. It's like the store in Detroit or in Pennsylvania and in New York called and said, oh, wait a minute. I saw that Cloud9 and Bethesda's taking this. Okay, we want it. So look what's happened. Now all of a sudden she's getting stores to call because other stores are
Mm.
taking it. And she sees these cool videos and these cool pictures. So now all of a sudden she's got 10 stores. Well, if you can get 10 stores, you can get 20. If you can get 20, you can get 50. If you can get 50, you can get 100, right? And so now all of a sudden you've got this distribution channel of 100 stores. And I told her, I said, yes, you're trying to sell dresses, but what would be really incredible is it's about the relationships with these stores because
Mhm.
their dresses is just going to be one product. The power of this business for you is going to be the relationships with 100 for fashion forward kid stores. You're going to come up with all kinds of stuff. Maybe you want to do swimsuits. Maybe you want to do socks. Maybe you want to do pajamas. I don't know. But now all of a sudden you've made 100 relationships. So like treat these relationships as gold. Do whatever you can because this is the power of the brand and the business. Um, and so really that's how you're starting. It doesn't really cost any money, but I can see the hangups. She may not feel as comfortable, hasn't done it. She started to do it. You got to cold call into these stores.
Mhm.
Oh, but they're not answering. The owner isn't there. Okay, well, who's picking up the phone? She's like, I know it's some high school girl's picking up. I'm like, great. We chat up the high school girl. Hey, by the way, I'm this from Gold Rush, New York City. Um, I'd love for you to check it out. I'd love your opinion. The high school girl's talking to a branch. Like, oh my God, what? My opinion? Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Let me see. Take a look. What do you think? Do you like that? All of a sudden, you're building a relationship with the person's there. Well, guess what that high school girl is going to do? She's going to go tell the owner, you're not going to believe this. I talked to this business. I love the brand. And so it's starting.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's kind of what it takes. It's like brute force. You got to email them. You got to Instagram them. You got to call them. You got to call back. When's the owner in? Okay, get the owner on the phone. Quick, easy pitch. No risk. I'm going to send you the dresses. If you could put them on, have them on consignment, great. If they sell, you let me know. If they don't sell, I'll send you a label. You can ship them back.
Mm.
So that's kind of and then I guess if you're feeling like you've got some momentum, people are DMing you on Instagram saying, hey, where can I buy these myself? So you can spin up a quick Shopify site. That doesn't mean you have to start spending Facebook ads. Not every product is going to work on Facebook ads. And it's
Mhm.
even harder now than it was a year ago, 2 years ago. That is a really tough game. It's not impossible. It's worth trying, but not every product is, direct response. I see an ad, I want to buy it.
Mhm.
Um, at scale. You'd probably try it, but there's other ways to sell stuff. Not everything needs to be sold with D2C Facebook ads, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Interesting. I love that. So, I mean, even in the case with your business with Collars and Co, is that something that you tested out the strategy with as well? Like, are you selling in stores and different boutiques and things like that, or is it exclusively D2C?
Yeah. So we're trying to be omnichannel as far as our distribution channel goes. We started D2C. That worked. Then before we did any wholesale, I did a pop-up shop in the mall in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. Cause I was like, you know what? I want to see, does this sell in person? Right. Before
Mhm.
I went to stores and said, I think this is going to sell. I was like, you know what? I had a pop-up shop. I was like in the mall, never worked a mall in my life. I never, I was like, hey, we got this little spot in the center of the mall, right outside of Saks Fifth Avenue. We, I opened the store every day. We laid out all the clothes, and just to see would people walk by and buy it, would they try it on? We had this like makeshift pop-up little like dressing room. You'd have these guys like, in there trying to try it on the middle of the mall. And it was great. I think we were there for 2 weeks and I don't know, we sold maybe like $2,400, which we were psyched about.
Yeah.
Um, and that gave me the idea, okay, we've tested this. Now let's go to the country clubs in our area. Hey, you know what? We just did this thing at Tyson's Corner. We did that. It worked great. Take this on consignment or try it. So yes, we are now pushing into a lot of wholesale accounts, men's stores, golf clubs, country clubs. We've got reps, that are kind of pushing in and doing that for us, doing the selling. But and we also have 3 of our own retail stores too.
Hmm.
So we have a store in Chicago off Michigan Avenue, right in front of Nordstrom's, in the Boca Raton Town Center, actually right in front of Nordstrom's too. And then one in King of Prussia Mall, which is just outside of Philly.
Cool.
So that's
Amazing.
been a fun thing as well to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
Um,
What would you say, how would you determine, because I know you said to your wife, like, I don't think this needs to go direct to consumer yet. Like, let's start with the consignment model. What made you lean that direction over following a little bit of what you'd done? Like, let's just start making content on TikTok. Let's put this on TikTok Shop, which is a whole other strategy in and of itself. I don't know if you've done that yet either with your
yeah,
company, but what
yeah.
was kind of the push or the decision to go that direction, and what would I consider if I have a product? How would I choose between the 2?
That's a great question. I mean, she asks me every day, "Oh, I want to go to UC. Let's get at." I guess I'm not saying not to do it. I just like the first few tries just to see if it works.
Mhm.
It's a little bit more of a heavier lift to get it going and get it going right. And you're rarely going to make the first 5 videos to be winners. You're going to have
Yeah.
to invest in creating good content. So there's a little piece of that. My also thinking with just dresses, which is somewhat of a commodity. It's not like it has somewhat of a unique feature. They're cool. They're super stylish, right? But they're priced like the other dresses. I mean, yeah, I do think they're cooler and more stylish, and maybe that'll be enough. I feel like the ads I see that are successful on at least just straight meta advertising D2C have some sort of, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but something really unique, right? It's like you open up the travel luggage and everything's folded and you just hang it up and you don't have to do anything. Like, it's like, oh, that's really
Mhm.
cool. Like, it's television. It's like not everything is going to work for direct to consumer on television. It has to be really darn cool. Um, and something pretty unique versus just selling, although I don't know. I mean, a lot of the crazy things sell, but like, I don't know. I'm looking at my desk. Like, if it's an extension cord and it's an extension cord like everybody else,
Mhm.
I don't think that's going to sell online unless it's going to be super cheap and that's their advantage.
Yeah.
But if it's an extension cord that goes from 0 to 100 feet and it extends and it does all this cool stuff and it's got all these little buttons in it, and yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, look, that's probably what most of your listeners have, some type of unique product. I just hope it's like unique enough that it has that direct response where people are like, that's really cool. I got to buy it
Mm.
now versus if I saw it in store, that's pretty cool. I'll buy it. Is it a store product? Or is it direct to consumer? Is it catalog? Is it
Mm.
wholesale catalog? There's other ways to sell. It's not direct to consumer online is not the only game. But
Yeah.
you're right. It's a really tough question. I don't know. I see the craziest stuff online. Don't go by me. I see the craziest stuff. I was like, oh my God, how is that selling? And, they're doing great with it. People are selling cologne online. And I was just like, don't you have to smell it first?
Yep.
But they're doing great. So,
I
gosh, you
think
know what?
I think to your point, it's
Everything's
like
worth trying.
having right, everything's worth trying, and I think sometimes what you brought up is there's a limitation when you're selling something that people can literally buy anywhere, so you have to have something that's extremely sellable about it. Like, it has to solve a
Yeah.
problem, be super unique, super stand out, and it's not saying your wife's dresses are not beautiful, but it doesn't really have, and I can almost, like, identify a winner and a meh business by this. Like, if they have that one really unique, just winner product, that hero product that is so different, and then, like, for you, you guys have added more things onto that because you had the established thing that people became familiar with the brand. And I think
Right.
when you're introducing, whether it's a t-shirt business or whatever, like, have your core thing that just, like, helps people identify you. And then it helps if you're just doing the direct to consumer. But I think there is a lot of noise and a lot of competition. And what I think is brilliant about the strategy you're doing with your wife is you're leveraging social media in a different way getting it in the stores, allowing the stores to share, allowing other people to create that content without her having to come up with a value proposition for why they should buy this dress over others. The social proof
Yeah.
is what's driving the sales and driving, the awareness that the product even exists. If you were to just run an ad to it, people would probably skim right past because we have the attention of, a fly. But if
Yeah.
you see that paired with social proof, so I think it's just like take it for it's not a direct rule saying one is better than the other. Just maybe be honest and look at your product and say, what's unique about this? What's going to make this sell? Okay, maybe nothing, but it is a good product. So let's take it and create some social proof and build the brand as we go, build the loyal, customer base. And then that in and of itself will sell the things no matter what we sell. So I think
Yeah.
that's,
And I 100% agree. And you know what? Sometimes your advantage in your product is you and your relationships.
yeah.
Like I was saying, build these relationships with these stores. They have to buy socks. They're gonna either buy it from you who they like or buy it from someone like
Hmm.
it could be you. It could be your relationship building. Um, that is what's unique is you provide just so much better service and bend over backwards for them and get them whatever they need. And so there's a piece of that too. But yeah, when it comes to online, it kind of has to have like a unique, like our blazer, and it also has to like lend itself to media too, like
Hmm.
the product. Like we've got a blazer. Our ad is this guy in the airport. He's holding a little tiny briefcase, and all of a sudden, you pick out this blazer. No guy knows how to travel with a blazer, right? Do you put it up at the top? Do you put it under this? Do you put it over your lap? Do you wear it on the plane? Like now I'm like, now you can like see the ad like working. It's like
Hmm.
unique. So all of a sudden it lends itself to media pulling this little tiny, this giant blazer out of this tiny bag balled up, and they put it on. And it looks so sharp without any wrinkles, and it's got all these cool features like a built-in knit. So that's,
Mm,
you know what I mean? It's a lendable product. Whereas, we have socks here. They're nice. I wouldn't run ads against them.
yeah.
They're great socks. We have got pants that are awesome. They're stretch cotton, but it's not like unique enough, I think, to run real scalable ads. You can definitely like run maybe some catalog ads where
Hmm.
people come to your site and then you go on Facebook and you kind of see it in there. Sure, I would do something like that. But
Yeah.
um, look, you know what? I've seen the craziest stuff sell. So if you guys are really passionate about it and they're listening, give it a try. It won't cost you that much to even get this thing spun up
Yeah.
or that much time. So give it a go. We're not talking about tens of thousands of dollars here
Hmm.
to even try it. But yeah, there's other ways to make money besides just D2C online,
Yeah. Well, I think it's
other ways
it's
to sell
just
stuff.
it's good to hear like there's no right or wrong. There's no one is like the preferred way. And even with your products, I've seen people build businesses where they start something, you're like, there's like a million other people who do that. They sell the same product, they sell it in stores, whatever. Like, what's going to make you stand out? And it can be really easy to look at that and maybe even your wife's dress company and say, well, lots of people sell dresses. Mine's not even like this really unique thing that doesn't exist in the marketplace. And I think there's something to be said too, though, about the consistency of allowing the brand to build over time and you being
Yeah.
so excited about it. So it's not that you have to have this fully innovative, unique, brand new to market product. Like there are other ways, and I think that's what's so liberating and cool about entrepreneurship is you can be really successful because you come up with a brand new concept that doesn't exist, or you can be really successful because you are passionate about it and you leverage other things. You have an incredible network, you have an amazing ability to market, you're willing to try different things. Maybe there's people listening who are like, "You know what? I don't have this like crazy above average product, but I've seen people kill it putting their stuff on something like TikTok Shop or on Etsy or whatever." And so they just dive into that strategy with a product and they're already 10 leaps ahead of the people who are still trying to think of like, what should I sell? What should I do? So I think it's just cool to hear a little bit more of the deep dive strategy that you've used on both directions and know that they both work. Like that's
Yeah.
encouraging.
A great quote is you don't have to invent a product. You have to market a product inventively,
Mm,
right? If we think back to all the products you're seeing out there, it's the same product, but they market it in a different way. Okay, so I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like Red Bull, there's 1,000 energy drinks out there. They're
yeah.
marketing it in a different way. Uh, what's the crazy water now? Death water. What am I thinking? What's the name of this? What
Yes. Oh, my
am I
my
talking about?
kids drink it. I
Liquid
know what you're
Death.
talking.
Liquid
Yes.
Death. Perfect example.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys out there, sure, you may have this dress brand or sock brand, but your brand is going to be so unique. So I know we were talking about like the product has to be so unique, but the
Mhm.
brand could be so unique. the way you guys have it designed is so unique. That liquid death, it's water in a can, but they're marketing it so uniquely and they are targeting it to a different group uniquely. All this stuff plays into account. I feel
Mhm.
bad that we kind of went back and ripped on products that didn't work so unique. When it really
No, we
is
didn't.
marketing about, you can market inventively and market uniquely and target a market, and take this drink here on my desk and target it to, I don't know, doctors and nurses in hospitals only. Like that is a unique concept. Yeah, sure. You know what? That's sellable on Facebook ads. But if
Mhm.
it's drinks for everybody and it's I've got water and it's for everybody, that I would be suspicious of.
Yeah.
So market a product inventively, sell it uniquely. I'm sure we
Mm.
can come a million concepts besides liquid death.
No, I
That's a
think
good one.
that's a really good example because as a person who loves marketing, I'm looking at that and my kids are just they have fully bought in. They are the consumer for that product, right? And I'm like, it's literally canned water. We have a sparkling water maker
Right.
at home and like what is the thrill? But they've been
Yeah.
so convinced this is such a unique thing. The packaging is cool. Their friends are using it. So I think, yeah, I love that we've touched on a little bit of both. There's also something I wanted to address either way. Like whatever you're doing, I think it can be easy to look at a company like yours and say, "Well, I do have a cool idea. I should do that, and I should do this," and you just start, like, wanting to put the cart before the horse, and I wanna
Mm.
talk about scaling in terms of even your company. You had this one really cool hero product. When did you know it was time to introduce more? Was it because the consumers were saying, "We want more," or was it just like, "Hey, this is working. Let's see what else that we love, what goes along with the brand?" And over time, you kinda did create this brand. It wasn't all figured out in the beginning, right?
No, it's changed dramatically, um, over time. And, but yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we were selling just white, one collar style. Now we have four collar styles. I don't know, 75 different patterns. But I felt like the white was selling well. We were getting good responses. People were asking us, hey, when are you going to do a navy one? So like, okay, let's do a navy one. And then we felt velocity and strength behind that. Okay, let's do a black one. And then God, how cool would it be if we had a pattern? Every guy wears blue gingham. Let's give
Mhm.
them the gingham one. Okay, so yeah, I would try it one at a time. We didn't just go out and say, okay, we're gonna make 20 different patterns. I mean, I some people do. I just did one at a time. Hey, are we getting some traction? Great, let's invest in another one. So that's really what happened. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe we can try a sweater and give them the combo. So
Mm.
let's make the number one sweater guys want. And so we made a merino wool navy sweater, and then that sold well. So, bit by bit, you're kind of listening to customers, you're listening to the market, you're feeling the strength and energy and velocity behind the sales, and that'll hopefully give you a guide.
Mm. What are some other ways that you have continued? I know you mentioned like you're running ads, you're doing things like that, but even in terms of marketing strategically in different ways, like are you doing influencer brand or collaborations? What are some other ways that you have expanded the brand in such a loud marketplace?
Yeah, we're trying a lot of different things: podcasts, television ads, influencer marketing. Uh, Influencer marketing was actually I was did an interview with New York Times actually this week, and they were asking me, "Is this like the death of the large influencer?" And I said, this year, not just this year, but I think there is some truth to that. Maybe not the giant influencer like a Kim Kardashian or Mr. Beast, they're like a whole nother level. Um, but somebody that's got like a million followers is I don't say the old days, that's like 12 months ago or 6 months ago. They could say, hey, I want $30,000 for a post. And now I'd be like, you're out of your mind. Like, there's no way Instagram and TikTok can't they used they used to be able to kind of guarantee they've got a million followers. They kind of guarantee I get 100,000 views on when I post a video. Now there's some people out there with 5 million followers and they get 3,500 views on their videos. So don't start paying these influencers for a post when they can't guarantee you views.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. If I ever did a deal like that, I'd guarantee the number of views. That means if they don't hit it, they got to post again until they do. But just having one post out there by the defensive end for the Washington Redskins, you know, is not going to move the needle enough for us,
Hmm.
um, from anybody. So I like the idea of micro influencers. Takes time. It's a pain in the tush. You reach out to 10, one of them writes back, great. You send them your product for free. They post about it. Awesome. You do 10 of those, that makes up for one big one that you had to pay. And you don't feel, you don't feel like you've been really taken if you paid somebody a ton of money for this post and it didn't do well. And so
Hmm.
that's what I feel kind of about the influencers though. But yeah, I mean, it's still part of it. We still send, I mean, I reach out every day on my Instagram to people that have large followings. Say, hey, to send you some clothes and see what you think. And never really ask them for anything too much. I mean, usually I write back, hey, if you love the clothes, it'd be amazing if you posted about it. That's really it.
Mhm.
And 9 out of 10 times they'll post about it and tag us. How much revenue does that drive? It's hard to tell.
Mhm.
It's hard, but I think there's value in it. Um, we also have a men's product. It's a little bit different. Women's products. It's more into shopping, and you can see an influencer post about something. You can instantly see the sales. Not as many like shopping, stuff out there for men that they're that
Yeah.
much interested into it. But
Well, hey, there's an audience right there for everybody listening. There's if you if you're interested in fashion and you're a man, we need more male
yes, call me.
influencers, right?
Yes, Instagram. Shoot me a DM. We'll send you some
Yeah.
free clothes to post about it. Even though we do great with women too. They like getting their husbands like dressed
Mhm.
up and talking about it. So there's power in that too for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'm open. We test a
Mm.
ton of things. Um, I'm on demo calls at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a week with people pitching. We've got this new app that can do this. We have 1,000,001 different places to advertise. And you're going to have to try it out, test it, see if it works, see if you see return and track it best you can.
Yeah. What is your number one driver right now in terms of marketing channel?
Yeah, it's still meta.
Mm.
Facebook, Instagram
Okay.
drives the vast majority of
And primarily with
business.
ads, not organic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
There's
at our
still
scale, it's just not it's hard. It's harder and harder to even get those videos that do 1,000,000. So at our scale, we need to kind of guarantee the views. So you got to put paid money behind it. But just starting out,
Mhm.
I would just do organic.
Okay. Yeah, I would recommend that too. Mostly just going back to the beginning of our conversation, like see if it's viable, see if it's a product market fit, and don't throw thousands of dollars in ads behind something when you have no clue how it's going to take. I think sometimes you can put a little money behind it just to like speed up the process of exposure and
Yeah.
see if it is viable. Um, but yeah, I think there's so many different ways that you can market. There's so many different ways that you can spend your time and attention. So even you as an entrepreneur and the founder of the company, I know you mentioned you're on calls all the time with people pitching different strategies. How do you stay in the lane of, okay, we're doing what's working, and like how much time is spent on leveling up the strategies versus just like I'm showing up and I'm in the leadership role and we're just continuing to do, because you're developing products, you're figuring out marketing.
Yeah.
Like what's kind of your role right now and how do you choose how to spend your time?
It's hard. I mean, we're doing a lot, working a ton. Um, you got to hire people so you can delegate the tasks. That's been a hard thing for me. Usually my other businesses, was 1 or 2 people. Now we have 20 people. So it's been a little bit of a change being able to delegate some things off my plate. I still like getting in the weeds and seeing what's going on, and being involved in a lot of stuff, but that's hard. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, but we're getting, it's fun though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fun. I'm learning new, making mistakes and wins and losses, but it's been a fun journey. And then, I'm going along with everybody listening too, just trying to constantly learn and get better at it. And
Yeah, because 'cause you're still a new baby company. If you look at, like, the time that Collars& Co. has even been in production, you said about 4 years ago you had viral TikTok and things started to take off. So there's
yeah,
so much more that you have to do, and you're still just getting started, and not to mention the fact that our world is moving so quickly and media is
yep,
moving so quickly. So I think what I'm hearing from this too is so powerful is start something. Like, there's gonna be an inevitable testing phase. You have to maybe find what the thing is that you can sell. Dial in on that really hard, do whatever it takes to make that productive, make that work, and then worry about the next things when it's time to worry about the next things, whether it's adding new products, scaling, using different marketing strategies. But I think what I've observed in our conversation is there's so much power in just like specific driven applied work to the thing that you can do in that moment and not worrying about all the things that you can't control and not trying to do all the things at the same time. And I think that's the foundations for any business to succeed, right?
Yeah, I mean, for starting, minimal viable product. You probably
Mhm.
everyone's heard this. It does not need to be perfect. Our shirt now looks very different than our first prototype, but
Mhm.
it was they always did is, can it sell? Can it sell on its own? Do you feel comfortable that, hey, it can sell? Great. Then you're going to make improvements to the product and make it better. But I see a lot of people waiting and waiting and waiting till they have the product perfectly just right, and it's got the zipper that's just the way they want it. It'll sell whether the zipper's on the left or on the right. It doesn't really matter. You're going to make that change down the road. Just see
Mhm.
if it'll sell. And if it does, amazing. You'll make the changes. If it doesn't, you've learned so much and you've done way more than anybody you know, most likely.
Yeah.
And put yourself out there and, you know, took a risk that 99% of the people would never do. So give it a go.
Yeah.
You know,
And then give it a go again with all that knowledge that you have if it didn't work the
yeah,
first time.
this isn't going
If
to be
at
your
first
only
you don't
idea.
succeed, right?
It's
Like
not going to be the only idea.
all this cliche advice we hear our whole lives, and then when it comes time for us to do our thing, I think we think we're the exception to that rule and like, "Well, I tried that one thing and it didn't work and that's it. I'm a failure. I'm not an entrepreneur."
Yeah,
And,
no.
sometimes you're gonna have the really quick success and other times it's gonna take a few different tries. So, I appreciate the perspective. I've loved that we've given so many different angles and strategies to being successful with a product-driven business. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. Before I close out, just side note to you, Justin, do you want to offer any kind of code or anything for the listeners who might fall into that category, or do you want me to just send them directly to the site?
Yeah, definitely check out collarsandco.com. I will create a discount code. So
Okay.
anybody out there, go to MU. We'll give you 20% off your first order and collarsandco.com. We actually have some women's too. Check it out. Got some cool women's dress collar polos. Um, More stuff on the way actually for fall, but yeah, thank you
Awesome.
so much for having me. This is
Of
great.
course. Thank you for coming and sharing and being vulnerable, opening up, like I said, the door to your business and letting us see what it took to get where you are. It's so helpful for everybody at different stages to see the real tactical strategy. So, thanks again. It was an honor to have you on. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.